Uncle Stu, thank you again for this. Thank you for spearheading the conversation. I believe it's very important that we start moving the needle forward, bringing the pieces on the chessboard, because we know this is chess, not checkers. We know some people are playing Connect Four. I always say that. But the reality is we have a chessboard. We've always had a board. We have amazing pieces. Fortunately, the pieces have not come together. And since those pieces have not come together, they can't work together. Not only that, we don't know what piece is whose piece, right? We don't know the knights from the bishops. We know there's a whole lot of pawns, though, right? We can't tell where the queens are, the kings are. But everybody likes to label themselves as such, but yet they don't move like kings and they don't move like queens, right? So again, this is the type of conversation that needs to be had for us to actually play the game properly. And the game of chess is actually the game of life. And as we know, as a community, we can't play this game properly if we're not playing as a team. Unfortunately, the way things are now, we're playing as individuals, but we can't get or collectively gather our power as we do have. We do have the power to make change and make differences. We don't need political movements. We don't need, a massive amount of money. We have everything that we have at our disposal except for unity. I think that's one of the strongest forces of nature. And without it, we can't move anything, unfortunately. I think sometimes we've gotten a little comfortable over time. There's a big disconnect between generations. And I believe that disconnect is getting wider. And I believe that the medicine of that is love and communication. I think because we're lacking the love with each other, we're lacking the communication, we can't figure out how to mend this thing and then be able to kind of pass the baton on properly. So Uncle Stu, again, I thank you for reaching out to everybody on this panel. It's a sharp group of brothers up here from old wisdom to new wisdom, but wisdom nonetheless, right? And so all different professions and different angles and perspectives. And I just ask that everybody, while we're doing this and having this discussion, just be mindful. We're not here to point blame, but we're here to examine and identify some links that need to be addressed. I don't call them weak spots. I call them spots of concern and areas that need to be addressed, because at the end of the day, we're all strong. We're only stronger when we're bounded together. And I think that's the whole idea, is to find out and identify, examine, and then we'll do a part 2 on how we can actually put this thing together and move it forward. But the most important thing is the communication. And so I'm going to start off with that intro so that the chat knows exactly what the objective is, that everybody on the panel knows what the objective is. And at the same time, you guys, I will be taking some notes. Feel free to take your own notes as well. We're going to go, of course, we'll start. I always say we got to start with the youth. We're going to start with the youngest person on the panel. And again, because it's important, because there's a disconnect in communication, we need to hear it from the youth. And then we need to work our way up the ladder. And that way, the ones at the top, the ones our elders here, the OGs, the veterans, right? In every sense of the word, they need to understand before they comment. They need to hear the perspective of those who are currently living in this particular generation and this society. It's very different. Everything is different. As we know, things have changed and it's completely night and day, right? So I'm assuming the youngest will be, Millennial Mark.
All right, good deal. Well, thank you for everybody that's tuning in. My channel is Millennial Mark TV, and I appreciate you, Uncle Stu, for having me on. Because one of the biggest things that the millennial group, we deal with is we feel like we're not heard by the older groups. The millennial group, it is a big group. And I think a lot of people don't understand that there's a divide even in millennials. My group, between the 26 and the 31-year-olds is what's, the group that I'm going to be speaking of. For the most part, we're the ones that seems to be more on the business focused side. You can look at some of the other YouTube content creators that's within that 26 to 31 age group. And a lot of their, content is more business focused. It's more, leveling up in a sense versus, the 32 to 41 side of the millennials, which are more like lifestyle, stuff that's kind of, somewhat similar to maybe Nathan's channel. Just more job focused people that's, closer to the 38 and up 41 they kind of resonate more with some of the talking points we hear from people in Gen X versus my group, 26 to 31, we're strictly trying to get to the money. And the reason why I say that is because we have to think about this. Something that we as millennials understand is that divide that I mentioned earlier. The reason why I say that there's a divide came in 2008. You had the older millennials, Nathan and the Intentional Millionaires group. they were getting out of high school, getting ready to start college, into the world of, college at the Great Recession, when a lot of people today are still dealing with the predatory student loans, versus my group, which is the 21 to 30, 26 to 31 year olds. We were still teenagers. So we actually saw our parents struggle, and some older siblings, if they were upper in age, they were in their 20s at that point. One of the things that I want to kind of touch on that we as millennials seem to struggle with when it comes to having these type of conversations with both Gen X and really the baby boomer generation, but a little bit of Gen X too, is the whole mentality of the pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That was something that was a real thing to be able to do back in the 80s, back in the Reagan era. That's where that started, back in the Reagan era. We have to know the history on that. The idea that all you need to do is, get up, go to work hard, and, you can just out of high school, go get a good job, start a family, and you can make it. That was a reality during that time frame. The disconnect starts when we have these conversations with the older group and they don't understand that that's not a reality anymore. I'd like to pose a question to some of the older members of the panel. Whenever you guys were in the age group of, let's say, 26 to 31, how often were you hearing people talking about multiple streams of revenue? How many streams of revenue you needed to make it? I don't think that was really, spoken of a lot, by Gen X and baby boomers. You didn't have to have all those streams. But as millennials, we know there is no way you can get out here and make it with just one stream of revenue. You have to be beyond exceptional at this point for that to be reality. We have a lot of streams of revenue we have to, do to make it out here, not just to get by, but to, move ahead, versus back in the day, you can go out here and get a blue collar job and start a family out the gate and raise them and have a house. Or if you want to do more than that, you could take the other option, which was preached a lot, which was go to college. And back in those days, you were almost guaranteed upward mobility coming out of college with a degree versus your counterparts who were blue collar workers. But today, even that class of people with the degrees that's in the millennial group, that's just not a reality anymore. And that's something that I see be, that's the biggest disconnect. And that's where I think we should start the conversation. Because again, as millennials, it seems like when we come to the older generation for information, it's almost like a gatekeeper type of thing going on. I've heard, from a lot of older brothers that, the millennials are lazy, they're individuals. It's like, no. We come to you guys for information and you guys tell us to stay in our lane. Inflation affects all of us. There is no lane. We need to be working on trying to move us all up, but there's still a lot of gatekeeping going on.
If you believe in what Millennial Mark had to say, the gatekeeper, or the communication between the millennials and trying to get the older generation to listen, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. I will do a response to what he had to say. It might just shock you, but let me hear what you have to say first. So leave a comment in the comment section. I will definitely respond in the comments. This is Uncle Stu, the old man on the block. Subscribe and like this video and see my next video. Peace.